share it and all that good stuff. All right, we're live. Hopefully people come on. Here we go. Hold on.
Everyone have a good 4th of July.
It was good. I'm actually kind of beat up still a little bit.
I am clearly.
I think everybody kind of is. Like, we're too old for this nonsense, right?
And then I had clients texting me at 6:30 in the morning on the 5th. Can we go see a house? And I was like, no one in the world is awake right now to let you into their house, by the way.
Actually, the showing service is closed today due to the holiday.
Right.
Okay, hold on. Let me share. No, that's not it. Where's our live?
If anyone's watching, no one's watching. We're waiting for people to.
Yeah, we're just waiting for people to get on for a second.
Trying to share our live.
Kristen, what did you do for the holiday?
I had a huge party. I had Eric's family over, my family, all that good jazz.
Nice.
Okay, here we go. I found it, I think. Newsfeed.
Maybe everybody's working this morning because it's really Monday.
It feels like a Monday for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, we have somebody. Okay, I just shared it. It was probably me.
Probably.
Probably is.
Okay. All right, guys.
This is my 5th of July breakfast today. Wait, where's the screen? That's the mode I'm in right now.
All right. So let's talk about, are we having another 2008? It kind of feels like the Twilight Zone right now. People are really talking about the high prices in real estate and the market's going to crash because of the real estate market. Girls, what do you guys think? What's your theory? What's your theory?
Nope.
Definitely not 2008 for lots and lots of reasons, I feel like. What do you think, Kristen?
I feel like it's not 2008. I feel like let me back up a little bit. So I feel like the real estate market is still correcting itself from 2008. I feel like we're bouncing back. If we never had a crash, I feel like our prices would have been here. I feel like our prices are going so high right now on the real estate side because of the crash of 2008. Again, if 2008 never happened, if we never had the crash, I feel like our prices would be right here, but it would gradually go throughout the years. It would naturally do it in a good, natural way. I feel like our prices right now are not happening in a good, natural way. I think it's just oh my God, we're correcting. Now we need all this. It's happening. And all these prices are going high on the real estate side. I feel like what's going to happen in the future that's going to make the real estate market dip or potentially crash is what's happening on the other end. Gas prices, living costs, going out to dinner to a regular breakfast place, Village Inn, that usually costs $20 for two people is now costing $40, $50 for two people. Mm-hmm. My mom went to Village Inn a couple weeks ago and she likes to get her gravy and fries and they charged her $8 just for the gravy. So I see the other side of it causing the real estate side to kind of dip and maybe potentially crash. But I see it happening in the next 3 years is what I see. But again, I can't tell the future.
A crash or a correction? Because there's a big difference.
Ooh, I don't know. That's where I don't know. I hope for a correction because I think it would lessen on what's going to make the ripple effect of the real estate market. But a crash is scary. I don't think a crash would happen.
So I have a question. So I was licensed in 2001 and I'm desperately trying to remember, like I would love to hear from the mega vets that have, like the Karens that have been in the business 45 years. Was this a thing that we said pre-Great Recession? Like, did people walk around all the time going, oh my God, you guys, housing prices are getting so expensive, a crash is coming? Or do we just have like crash PTSD because we've been through something tough? Because I don't think that, I guess everyone feels like what goes up
must come down.
Come down. And that is true. Real estate is cyclical, markets are cyclical, and that does happen. But it's so interesting to me that everyone, like the second that we started escalating quickly, all of a sudden started to assume that we're definitely having a crash.
So I talked to a real estate agent a couple weeks ago who he's been in real estate since 77, I think he said. And we had this whole long conversation about 2008, now, current, blah, blah, blah. This was never a topic of conversation. He said back, pre-recession, shady lending practices were just a thing. And nobody even knew that they were shady because it wasn't a problem until all of a sudden it was a problem, right? So my belief system at this point is what goes up must level out. I think that we are going to see a leveling out. And I think that we are going to see things, maybe not with this insanely frantic pace, but I do believe it's still going to take us a couple years to even get to that at this point. So we were going to talk about absorption rates, what that is, what that means. How does that make us as real estate agents interpret the market so we can articulate to our buyers and sellers what's going on? So, Ed, so one of the main things that we hear right now, we're in our normal summer slump, and people are constantly like, here we go, here's the crash, here it's coming. And I'm sitting here going, this is the first time in 2021 where things have felt normal to me, right? Because this is a normal summer market that we're in. So absorption rates are essentially just the amount of inventory that you have in your area. If no other properties were listed, this is how long inventory would last. So I pulled, so in a balanced market, not even a buyer's market or a seller's market, a balanced market, we need about 6 months of inventory. I did mine on a really micro level this time, just for shits and giggles. Here on a micro level, we have 12 days of inventory in any price point, 12 days. That is it. So that means that so just based on our absorption rate alone, you can see how far we have to go inventory wise just to have a balanced market, let alone a buyer's market or a crash.
And this is like what you're saying is so interesting to me because I don't think people, okay, so prices went up really, really fast. And somehow that makes everybody feel that we're bubbling because they feel that we're overinflating, right? But I don't get how people don't understand that it's a surplus of inventory that creates a crash. It's not a narrowing of inventory that creates a crash. The reason that the prices have gone up so high is that narrowing of inventory. It's the fact that we have 12 days of inventory on the market. What happens, like what brings prices down? Too much inventory. So we would have to swing so far in inventory levels. We would have to go from 12 days to 6 months worth of inventory, which I want to sit here and calculate that's thousands.
So for us here in Denver, it's essentially 15,000 houses on the market at any given time. We on average right now, and this is any price point. I'm not talking like just 400,000 or 5, like this is any price point. So we need on average 14 to 15,000 houses here in our market to even remotely account for the 6 months of inventory. We are on average about 3,000 to 4,000 houses at any given time.
So we need 8,000 to 10,000 houses to come onto the market
consistently.
And that's like monthly in order to balance the market. Now, the other reason that we don't have inventory is that we know that they estimate 30 to 40% of builders went out of business during the recession, completely stopped building houses. And we know that the builders that stayed in business stopped building 25 to 30% of homes. So it's a true shortage. We didn't build what we should have been building. And I don't see how any type, even if all of the buyers that are out there right now decided to not buy, I don't see with that short level of inventory how we could go to a buyer's market. It's a surplus of inventory when there's too many choices, more homes than buyers, that creates a buyer's market.
Right. So basically anything 5 months or less is basically a seller's market. Little over 5 months to 6 months and more is a seller's market. Did I say that right? No, other way around. Yeah, say that right. No, other way around.
Yeah, under 5 months is a seller's market. Over 6 months would be a balanced or buyer's market. So
Right.
like just here in our area, I mean, we are in not even just a seller's market. We are in the most extreme seller's market we've ever seen, even with our summer slowdown.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see how this changes anytime in the near future at all. I mean, the builders here in our area, most of their lots have 200 people on a wait list for one lot.
So this is just explaining to everybody who's out there watching that we really don't see a crash happening in the real estate side of it, or we should say the real estate market is not going to make what's happening right now crash, is essentially what we're saying, because there's no bad loans. Basically what happened in 2008, there was bad loans, there was fraudulent things going on, there was crazy fake money being flown around. That's what
we're qualifying people at the closing table.
Yeah, I mean, there were people being qualified and not even their credit wasn't even looked at, their bank account wasn't even, their jobs weren't even looked at. So let's be real, like you're not having another 2008 for sure. Now, on the other side of it, you know, the cost of living and going out to eat and groceries and stuff of that nature. How do you guys think that that's going to affect the real estate market? Let's say in the next year, prices just keep going up and just go up and go up. Not the real estate side, the other side.
So that's what
Ed
just said. Ed said, what makes me nervous is that it doesn't feel like salaries or income are increasing even close to the same rate as housing prices.
Correct.
So is there a day of reckoning where people are over their head or underwater? Will this just level out gradually? I mean, you guys, it's a super interesting question because he is not wrong, right? That's truthful. But at the same time, we have buyers bringing, I read a statistic the other day, it was like 82% more money down than we've ever seen in history across all loans generated in the last 18 months. So these guys are bringing heavy amounts of cash to the closing table. And this is another reason why I don't believe that we're going to see a crash, because people have so much skin in the game invested in their properties right now that even if there was a storm, they could weather it through home equity lines. You know, they're very cash heavy, especially all these people on top of 20, 30, 40% bringing $20, $30, $40,000 in appraisal gap coverage. So I don't know how to answer that question, Ed, because salaries aren't increasing. You know, I was in line yesterday at 7-Eleven behind a guy who was homeless. He was super sweet and he brought in his change to buy a Big Gulp and he didn't have enough change. And he was asking the lady at the counter, did the prices on Big Gulps go up? And she was like, yeah, dramatically. The prices on everything has gone up, right? So it is true. I don't even want to use the word inflated because that,
I know
the economy has changed.
Everything is expensive. Yeah. And yet all of these people they're so cash heavy. So I don't know, is it, you know, that the recession scared people so badly that they saved money to be able to buy now? Or is it they're so equity rich that they're bringing that to more transactions? I mean, even first-time homebuyers have more cash in hand than I've ever seen before in my life. And the other thing too is, you know, there are places that they call bubble cities that always ride really high. Seattle, you know, Vancouver, places like this, California, where you just can't live there if you don't have the money to play in the real estate game. But they don't talk about this stuff. I mean, right. Vancouver has been going through this type of market for 15 or 20 years. Yep. And we don't talk about a crash being imminent. They just know that it's expensive as shit to buy real estate in Vancouver.
So, I mean, I think like inherently what it comes down to is 2008 and prior, people weren't as invested as in their homes, right? Like they didn't have money. They didn't care. It was like an apartment almost. Like you just don't really care. Like, remember they had all the owner backed loans and all this wild, I mean, we still have that, but it's way harder now, right? That's what it comes down to. You have people who are more invested in their homes than ever before, and they're not just going to walk away. You know, I think we keep hearing all about this shadow inventory and the foreclosure inventory. People are not just going to walk away. Like, why would they go into foreclosure when they could call us and say, let's go list my house. I'm not walking away from all the money I put down, and I'm going to make money. Like, this isn't happening. People are more invested in their homes than ever before.
So Ed says, okay, so here's my question. We know that there have been significant cash buyers. Where is this cash mostly coming from? Out-of-state buyers selling homes in California, et cetera, and using that cash, corporations who are buying properties in cash to create rentals. Okay, so this is a great question. I think we should go around our roundtable, and anyone that's listening, if they want to comment in the comment section, if you've had a cash buyer recently as a buyer or on one of your listings, do you know where the cash came from? I've seen it coming from out of state. So I've had 2 that have come from Manhattan and like 3 that have come from California. So 63% of all sales the last 90 days in Colorado came from New York City or Manhattan, by the way.
So listen to this. So Jessica and Lindsay are in the Denver area. I'm 2 hours south of them in a city of 150,000 people. Where my cash buyers are coming from are from Denver, from you guys, because out-of-staters are coming to Denver, and Denver is coming down to me because they still want to be in the state of Colorado with family, but now they know they could sell their house for a crap ton of money and come down here. So it's a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. They're going, out-of-staters are going to Denver. Denver's coming down to me. It's a ripple effect.
Well, see, and that's something that I keep telling my buyers, my sellers. Like, this isn't just here in Denver, because we hear this all the time. Like, this is Denver, 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 Denver. Mm-hmm. It is every market across the nation. You are in what I would consider a smaller market. We are in a major market. We are in the exact same market, just on the opposite end of, like, price-wise, right? And so this is the thing that I think people are failing to understand on a national level. This is happening everywhere. And that's what the other difference is between, I think, now and then, is that it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter what price point you're in. We are all equity rich, right? Like, rich bitch, like, that's where we're at. And we can go and we can be fluid and we can move and do all these things and rent and buy rentals. And we have the ability to do all of this now where we didn't prior.
This is the American freaking dream. Why is everyone panicking? Like, I don't get it. The American dream is that you buy a home in the United States of America and you make money on your real estate investment. And that's exactly what's happened for millions and millions of Americans. And instead of being like, woo, like Kristen said, we have finally recouped as a country and we have cleared out the Great Recession and we've made it to the other side where we're making money again on our investments. Everybody's like, a crash is coming and something really bad is
happening. That's another question that I have for everybody. Like, when did it become bad for sellers to make money? And when did it become unacceptable for people to make a really good return on their investment? Like, that's what we're supposed to do, you guys.
Let's also think about this too. Not only are sellers making money, but buyers are making money too, guys.
Yes, they are.
Even though these buyers are putting down appraisal gaps, when they buy a house today, 30, 40 days from now, a gap is taken care of and they've got equity. Mm-hmm. So let's be real. Buyers are making money too.
Correct.
Does it sound scary that, oh, well, it may crash in 3 or 4 months, but it hasn't. We've been saying that for the past 5 years and it hasn't crashed.
So Angie, hi Angie. She says she's in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they're seeing lots of cash buyers from Northern Virginia. And then she's saying a lot of cash buyers here have said they are moving from stocks to real estate assets. To answer that second part of Ed's question, I'm seeing buyers, like real occupant buyers. I mean, if everyone's talking about BlackRock and the stuff that they're doing, and we need to be watching that and talking about that for sure, because it's really scary. But that's not who I'm seeing coming in and purchasing my listings. These are real people.
These are real buyers.
Yeah, I have one right now where they have 85% down because they've been in their house since pre-recession, and now the pendulum swung all the way back up, and they're almost able to buy in cash because they have so much money in their house.
And I want to comment on Kathy's comment about the stocks to real estate. For years, I think it was like the older generation, maybe like my mom and older generation, they thought that it was the coolest thing in the world to put your money into stocks and bonds or keep your money in the bank because you're going to get interest. Well, I think that's flipping. I think people are seeing the numbers now and they're saying, well, shoot, I can take my money out of this and almost double my money in less than a year. Why would I keep my money here? There is a lot of that going around, a lot.
Well, you don't make any money with your money in the bank anymore, right? Like interest rates, I think on savings accounts are like under 0.25%. Like there's no money there. And I think, the stock stuff gets very scary too, because you're not in control of your money. And this is a way to be in control of your money. And it's somewhere where you're always going to make money.
Right.
So Annette says we compete against marijuana money. Sound like I'm smoking marijuana. I can't pronounce it. For property that our landscaping company wants to buy, and it's hard to compete because cash talks. That was so. On the commercial side, I for sure believe that's still true. Yeah. On the residential side, we saw that for a good couple of years. It was wild because marijuana money, right? The money, and I know this because I have tons of friends that are really big in this business. Their money can't be put in a bank because an FDIC insured bank, because marijuana is federally illegal, will not allow them to put their money in the bank. So when we first legalized for a good 2 years after that, they were buying everything because they'd go out and buy properties in cash. They'd sit on them and earn income for 1 to 2 years, and then they'd sell them and their money would be clean and they could put it in a bank, right? But I feel like that's calmed down a little bit, but I have heard in the commercial space and like land properties and things that farming and hemp farming and all this stuff is taking up a lot of properties.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That happened here in Pueblo, the commercial side of it. In Pueblo West, we were the birthplace, I guess you could say, of marijuana in Colorado. And our industrial area of Pueblo West was a ghost town. You can literally buy a 4,000 square foot building for $100,000. You can't touch a piece of land over there now for under $200,000. But Pueblo County has put a cap on marijuana now. Mm-hmm. Only way that you can get into the marijuana business in our county now is if you are already in it. You are basically grandfathered in. So if you want to go open another marijuana business, you have to be grandfathered in, or you have to go through excessive applications and background and $70,000 worth of paperwork to get into our business now. So not only did that calm our commercial side of it, it kind of opened up an other side for other industries to come in besides marijuana. So now that our little area now that was called the marijuana grow area has now branched out to other businesses, kind of, thank goodness, because of the calm of what Pueblo County has done. So yeah.
So let's start at the beginning of like 2007, 2008 and talk about the contributing factors to what actually caused this crash. And if you guys have never seen The Big Short, you need to go and watch that movie because you learn so much. But so let's talk about predatory lending, right? So this is, in my opinion, I think most people's opinion, like the number one contributing factor to this, right? So if you weren't in the business back then and you're in the business now and you get really irritated about why it feels like your lender needs your firstborn child and a DNA sample in order to approve your loan, this is exactly why, right? Because of predatory lending. So back then we were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Interest-only loans were a huge thing where you were literally only paying the interest on your mortgage and nothing towards the actual loan. I had clients purchase properties that were like $2 million and their mortgage payment was like $800 a month, right? Because they were doing interest only. So you never pay anything off. Like you will never earn equity or even make a dent in that mortgage through that. Just throw out something about predatory lending. What does that mean to you?
It's the appraisers were the issue. Like that was a huge part of the problem back then, which is why we have appraisal management companies now, third-party providers of the appraisals. Because you would just call your homie and be like, I need this property to appraise at X, and it wasn't worth that. And so people were walking into their homes upside down because of appraisal issues. No documentation was required anywhere. They hardly even verified social security numbers, income. They had, sorry, everybody's commenting, so I'm getting like sidetracked over here. They were adding closing costs into your loan. Like you were literally bringing $0 to the closing table. You had zero investment in this.
You could get money back sometimes. Like I would see VA buyers that, or FHA buyers that would like go to the closing table and they'd get their $5,000 or $10,000 earnest money back. They'd go home with a check.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Higginbotham. Oh, we got all the girls on today. I can't.
I know.
So she says no docs. So what that means is like they literally, they weren't checking anything, right? So you could go to them sometimes, they would run credit. If you had a credit score that was in an acceptable range, they would give you a loan. They didn't need to see your bank statements. They didn't look at taxes. They didn't look at anything.
Basically, if you had a pulse, you got a loan.
You got a loan.
Yeah.
Stated income, right? So I could stated income meant I could provide you, I mean, shit, it was great being a buyer back then. I could give you my bank account showing you I've got $10,000 in my bank account, and they'd be like, you get a loan, and you get a loan, and you get a loan.
I mean, my husband was a lender for US Bank, at which US Bank wasn't one of the lenders that took the blood money to get them out of all this. But we used to say all the time it was easier to get a house than it was even a freaking car back then. Like you couldn't get financing for a 2008 Nissan Altima, but I could go buy a brand new house because it was just way easier.
And let's be real. I mean, there was a lot of mortgage lenders that went to prison. There were a lot of appraisers that went to prison. Pueblo was huge for it. We had a couple of lenders go to prison, and we had a couple of real estate agents get a slap on the wrist, which I don't think they should have got a slap. They should have got more than that. And we had some appraisers that went to prison. They served time.
Massive lending companies and banks went out of business because of this. Yeah. Countrywide. I mean, look at Countrywide. They decimated the Seattle region because if you lived in Seattle, you had a Countrywide loan and you were in trouble.
Yeah. They are no longer Countrywide. They're not live anywhere. So John Jarvis. Hey, John, we have so many friends on today. This is so fun. John says prepayment penalties. So what he's talking about here is your loan could be underwritten with a clause in there that said if you sell within 6 months, 1 month, a year, you have to pay back a massive amount of money to your lender. So like, let's say that you sell in year 1, you might have had to pay them $20,000 or $30,000 because you were terminating the servicing of your loan early. And then Ed says lenders doing 120% loan to value. Yeah. Loaning, what he means is more than what the house is worth, guys. That's why we don't do this anymore.
Yep.
We now are seeing these appraisal gaps. John said, this is my favorite, 2-year ARM with a 3-year prepayment penalty. So yeah, we used to do this thing all the time called 2-1 buy downs. It was crazy. So we would do a 2-year ARM, right? If anyone doesn't know what that means, ARM means adjustable rate mortgage. So that means that the rate is lower introductory wise for a certain period of years, and then it balloons up higher to whatever the interest rate is when that ARM is over. So like we would do a 2-1 buy down where in year 1, we would buy the interest rate down to like literally nothing. Like it was like 1%. And then it would go up to 2% on year 2. And then on year 3, it would fix where market rates were. Well, by year 3, market rates, you could go from 1% to 11%, 10%, and then you can no longer afford your mortgage. Like when was the last time, John and Ed, are we even underwriting ARMs anymore? Is that even a thing?
I don't think so.
I think that they were forever, but criteria to be eligible for an ARM is like impossible for most people to get qualified for.
And 5-year ARMs and 7-year ARMs, those were the really scary ones, because God knows what happens in 5 to 7 years, right? You can go from 2% interest to 20% interest, and then all of a sudden you can't afford your house.
Well, I mean, my parents did an owner-backed carry back in 1990 because the interest rate at the time was 14%, 15%, I think my dad said. And the owner had a loan for 11%. So that was a better, option for them. But I mean, like, that was really the only way that you weren't paying these astronomical amounts. And then, they ended up refining and getting into a different loan, obviously. But I mean, can you even imagine a world where like we're paying 14, 15% interest again?
No.
Like buyers lose their mind when they hear a 4 now. Imagine if it was 14.
No, it's really, yeah, I don't know. It's funny. And we were, by the way, they're announcing, or they did announce that Fannie Mae is going to start underwriting 40-year loans. I feel this one's really interesting to me because I don't like it. Like, I'm not usually one of those people that goes out and gets the 72-month auto loan or, pushes things out as far as humanly possible. But at the same time, if prices are not going to go down and rates are not going to go down any further because they can't, and that's a whole different conversation, right? Then something does have to give. To go back to Ed's point and Kristen's point about everything else being unaffordable on top of housing right now, at some point, people literally cannot afford a home anymore. So what do? I do think extending the term might make it more affordable.
I don't think so. Sorry, Jessica. Like, I don't think so. All we're doing is giving the buyer more buying power, if that makes any sense. Like, it's not, in my opinion, it's not going to calm the market down. Now all it shows to more buyers.
No, I'm not saying.
I don't think it's about calming the market down. No, I think it's about helping with affordability.
Yeah, affordability. Like, if you can take that 30-year payment and now stretch it out to 40 years, those people that we're working with that, their max budget is $350,000 on a 30-year loan, and they literally cannot afford to buy a home here anymore. Maybe they can go to 400 or 450. They can actually get a house, and because the term is longer, they can afford it.
Well, and I think to me, like, back when the 30-year mortgage was created, right? Like, life as we know it was very different. You usually had your mom who stayed home, your dad who went to work, you retired at, 60, and that was just the expectation. Most of us don't stay in our homes for 30 years. Most of us don't stay in our homes for 15 years. We are working longer than ever before. We are retiring later than we ever have. So I just think as a whole, like, the culture of where we're at this point, do 30-year loans really make sense anymore? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe not, but I do think that it will help with affordability. And I think it will maybe give people hope that couldn't afford
it. And the tourists, they're not going to like it, right? Like, they will tell you that it's not a good idea because it's going to take you forever to pay it off. Those are the guys that are buying cash. They're the people that don't do auto loans, but I think Ed was hitting on it really well. I mean, homeownership in the United States right now it's hard. It's very expensive. It's very hard to get into. And there are a lot of people that won't be able to own homes if these trends continue. So I think we have to do something. If we can't change the pricing, we can't go back to those 7 years during the recession and build 30 to 40% more houses. The builders now are so inundated that they can't build more, right? They're screaming for help. They're stuck. So we can't fix the inventory. We can't fix rates. We can't fix prices. Maybe we do need longer loans. I don't know what else we do. It's a good question. Kathy says, do you think that will increase the longevity of homeownership since it will take longer to build equity? So in Colorado, usually the average homeowner stays in their house 5 to 7 years. That's changed to 2 to 3 over the last 3 to 4 years, I think, because people have grown equity so fast that they're moving up faster.
I don't think it's going to change anything. I mean, if we're even if we're on the low side of an equity gain, we're still at 5 to 7% a year, just on the low side. And so to me, it doesn't change anything. Like, adding an extra 10 years to your loan term, what is that? Maybe an extra 150 to 200. I don't even know what it is, but I
mean, this is a really douchey thing to say, but I'm just going to say it, right? I have a longer loan term on my car. I want a new car. I don't really care.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it changes anything. Like, people mentally aren't going to go, well, I have a 40-year loan, so I need to stay in here longer. They're going to go, fuck it, I want to move.
Yeah.
And I think as long as they keep gaining equity, they're going to want to move.
Yeah. I mean, look at the people with a 15-year loan. Do you think they care? Or, you know, nobody cares. I think when they want to move, they want to move. And as long as there's money to be able to do that, they don't really care how it gets there.
Yep.
I really love how much conversation we're having today.
I know, this is great.
It's strange that there was such a push for affordable housing in years past, and now it's almost like you don't hear anything about it. Yeah, no, for sure. So I work really closely with the builder side. They're losing money hand over fist in a lot of scenarios. And I know that agents are really angry that they're reducing commissions, and buyers are really angry that pricing is going up. These guys, between the cost of labor, the cost of materials, they can't build fast enough. They're slowing down their building on purpose in order to keep quality control and not burn out their trades. But like, we have builders in Denver right now, and I've heard this is happening in other parts of the country too, where they will not even give you the price on the house until they dig the foundation, because material costs are soaring so much. If they do what we've always done, which is write a contract and then dig 90 days later, they're going to be in the hole 90 days later because material costs and labor costs are so high. So I don't think it's possible to build affordable housing right now.
Well, and I guess like it's all subjective. Like, what's affordable housing anymore? Because here in our area specifically, I mean, first-time home buyers, we're talking $500,000 home, you guys.
Well, our average sales price is $710,000. So is that what's affordable? Is a $710,000 house?
I mean, like, I get it's all relative. Like, I don't even know what affordable is anymore, and what does that look like? Because what it was 10 years ago is not what it is now. And with the rising cost of everything, I don't even know if there's a way to do affordable housing without massive government grants and things like that. And then where's that money coming from, right? Like, I just, where does all this money come from? We're giving it away for COVID giveaways, Lindsay. We don't have money for that.
Stimmy money. Yeah. So Ed says, I feel really bad for young couples just starting out, trying to get in their first house. So hard to get the lower priced home without cash on. I mean, for the first time in my 20-year career, and I've had to call Jess and be like, hey, can you walk me through how to say this to people? Because it hurts to say it. So I need to role play it with somebody. I've had to tell people you can't buy a home here.
You can't buy it.
First time in 20 years. I mean, it always used to be my whole career. I knew if I just showed them enough houses and worked hard enough, we would get them the right one or a one. It isn't like that anymore. Like, there are people who cannot afford to buy here. And I don't know what happened. This is like, I think they'll be writing books about this in future generations about what's happening right now, because this is the first big, if you look at the United States like a chessboard, it's the first big moving of pieces around on the board since back in the 1950s, where families all of a sudden decided to move out to other places outside of bigger cities and to not all live together in one tiny little house. And we started building bigger houses and different types of houses. Like, we haven't seen a moving around of the pieces like this in many generations. It's causing changes. I mean, people cannot afford to live here anymore. So they're going to other places, Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, where it's less expensive. And then other places are coming here for sanctuary from taxes, which is really funny, and weather and all kinds of things, you know?
Well, and I think for the first time in history, we are actually seeing people move because of politics. I mean, legitimately coming and saying, I don't want to live here anymore because of X. I don't want to live here anymore because of Y, right? And it's politically driven. And so for the first time, I think in history, I mean, Lindsay, you've been in the business much longer than me, so I think you can articulate this better than I can, but am I wrong? Have you ever in your entire career had someone tell you?
And maybe people felt that way, but they sure as hell never said it. And
you and I sold a property together last year. The whole reason they were moving was politics.
Yeah, I have people call me all the time. I want in a red state. I want in a blue state. You know, like, it's interesting what's happening, but it's causing other cities that you would never think in the whole world would boom the way that they're going to in the next probably 3 to 5 years. it's happening. I mean, Idaho is exploding, Arkansas is exploding. It's the whole board is moving around.
I have a client right now who bought with us 2 years ago, and they left California because of the pricing and because of housing. So they moved here and bought a beautiful house on 2 acres. It's gorgeous. They just called us the other day and they said, I never thought that Colorado would get like this. I want to be in a different colored state. And by colored, I mean red or blue. And they're like, we're out of here. We didn't think that Colorado would be like California, so we're out. And I was like, whoa.
I was on a listing presentation last night where they said, and look, guys, we are not having a political conversation right now. I'm not saying anything about politics, but I am telling you that this is a real thing. I went on a listing presentation last night where they said, we voted for Trump and our neighbors don't like us anymore, so we're moving. Like, it's 100% a thing that politics are becoming a reason for people to move. Jennifer Schrantz, hi, says, I'm in Tucson, Arizona, and our average sales price is around $350,000. We are quickly becoming affordable for first-time home buyers. Some of my buyers have given up looking because they're priced out of the market this year. I mean, it is heart-wrenchingly awful what is happening, right? But also, like, how many years were we standing around preaching, you got to buy now, you have to buy now, you have to buy now, right? And people missed a lot of opportunities, and the people that took those opportunities are cashing in big time.
Yeah. Side note, Jennifer, if you're a realtor in Tucson, which I think you are, I have a referral for you. Message me.
So great.
Jennifer is actually the reason we're having this conversation. She was the one with this. Yeah.
Well, perfect. Jennifer, message me. I have a referral for you.
Yeah, she's actually fabulous. Okay, so now let's talk about, do we want to talk about new build stats pre and post recession and trades?
Yeah.
So I think we have to talk about this because what's happening is everyone in all the groups and all the conversations, everybody's like, the white shining knight is the builder. The builder is going to come in and they're going to rescue us and they're going to build all the houses and everyone's going to have all the houses and that's going to level out the inventory, maybe crash the market because the builders are going to build so many houses. Like I was on site for a builder for a very long time and I work very close with them now and they cannot keep up and they will not keep up. Right. The builder that I work really closely with every Monday morning for sales training, dead serious, you guys, has a psychologist in their Monday morning sales meetings talking to their sales representatives about how to handle the shit that the public is giving them when they come into their sales offices over the weekend and scream at them about not having inventory, not being able to give out pricing, and not being able to get a house vertical up out of the ground for a year and a half. They cannot keep up.
So I think one of the biggest things that people fail to recognize, it takes people to build houses with talent and that know what they're doing. We don't have electricians. We don't have flamers. We don't have HVAC. The trades are so compressed right now that we don't have anyone to build your house. So take everything else off the table. Who the hell is building your house?
And those have trades. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say the people that can build your house, they can charge astronomical amounts, you guys, because nobody else is doing what they're able to do. Send your kids to school to be an electrician and watch their world change.
Thank you.
And we don't have trades. Well, we don't have trades for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons for that is the recession was so hard and it did last so long that people who were skilled tradesmen left those industries and went into others, and B, kids and young people growing up saw no value in becoming trades because there wasn't any work for them back then. So it's a shortage. We stopped building and we stopped producing tradesmen. So now we have this giant shortage and it's a problem.
It's a big problem.
Angie says, I spoke to a guy this past weekend that works for a very large builder supply company. He said their lumber prices went down 40% in June, which is true. Mm-hmm. However, he said it would be months before the consumer saw that savings because of what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that Angie said that, because that was going to be my question. I know that prices have been going down on lumber. So when is the ripple effect? Like, when are we going to feel that?
It's usually 6 to 12 months before the consumer starts to feel any sort of relief.
We feel it though. And that is, okay, so let's talk about that for a second. I don't believe that any of this escalation in pricings has been predatory. I don't feel like, because a lot of people are like, well, the builders are doing this on purpose. I don't think that that's true. I think all of these reasons come together to create why prices have gone up so high. On the flip side, once they're up, are they going to bring them back down unless the market absolutely necessitates it? Because people will pay it. They will line up, like Jess said, 200 people for a lot to pay it. So I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ashley says, I love that you guys have these conversations. I'm not an active agent, but work on the appraisal side and see these challenges daily. Ooh, girl, you want to come on our show and talk about appraisals sometime? That would be really
Ashley.
cool.
Ashley and I have been friends since high school. She worked on the BPO side for a long time too. I think she's still in BPO if I'm not mistaken. But she works on like not the realtor side of it. And her mom was a massively huge, wildly successful realtor growing up. And her signs were everywhere in Littleton when we were growing up. So I love that Ashley is watching today.
What was mom's name?
Put me on the spot like that.
I feel okay. Annette says my son is in remodeling and their industry is going crazy. True. Too. We need tradesmen. Yeah. No. It's like, I mean, I'm doing a flip right now. Like, you can't, even if you go to someone, a contractor, and say like, I'll pay you double. They're like, we don't have time. We don't care. It's horrible. It's absolutely crazy. What was on our list to talk about? We talked about trades, talked about lending. What else do we want to talk about? Why else is this not 2008?
I think we pretty much hit everything of why it's not 2008. I mean, let's just be real. We're not 2008 because we don't have fake loans going on. Like, literally all the appraisal gap money that is happening right now, all the overbidding, all that money is 1,000% verified, down to the freaking millipenny. It is verified. You cannot get a loan and not feel like you went to the doctor and had a colonoscopy. Let's be real.
So let me ask you girls something, and then anybody who's on this today that's a real estate agent, I want you to comment. And all of the listings that you've had this year,
okay,
that have massive appraisal gap coverage, how many of your buyers on that listing or on the buy side have actually had to bring money to the table?
Two.
And that's out of, I mean, between the three of us, that's probably close to 300 deals.
Yep.
So 6 out of, I mean, that's, guys. That's,
and how low? So mine, I had one that was both 5,000 low on 2.
Mine, I think one was 11.
I can't remember on mine. I want to say 11 on one of mine. I think.
And then I think the other one was under 10. Like, I don't remember. So Jennifer Schrantz in Tucson says that she's only had one. And Jennifer's, again, a high volume agent. So that's, to me, is very telling of her market.
Yep.
Kathy
Betham is in the cutest little island in the whole entire universe called Kent Island. And she's only had 2.
One for 5,000 low, one for 7,500 low. Okay. So here's the thing. And you guys tell me if you think that I'm wrong. Kristen said earlier, don't forget the buyers are still making money. I think that this is like an enormous thing that we're missing in our messaging as a real estate community. And I think that this is why this perpetuation of crash, bad, scary, inflation, overpaying keeps happening, is we're not communicating that message. In Colorado at the beginning of the year, this is literally what would happen. Let's say a house goes on the market in Castle Rock for $400,000 on Friday. By Monday, let's say that house is under contract for $450,000. In 3 days, we just went up $50,000, right? The next week, the next house goes on the market for $450,000 because that is now the high comp. So that's the floor for where you start, right? So now we go on the market at 450, and by Monday, that house is under contract for $500,000. Okay. So buyer B technically just paid $100,000 more than buyer A did, but buyer A just made $100,000. Now you flash forward another week. Now buyer B 2 weeks later is making $100,000. So I don't think that we're talking enough about the fact that, yes, this is scary. Prices feel high. It could feel like you're overpaying, but if you can just get yourself under contract, you're literally sitting here just making money.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Absolutely. I tell my buyers, let's just buy something. Like, let's just buy it. And that maybe this isn't the dream, but in a year or 2 years, we go and we find the next step and the next step. Like, this is how you buy your dream. You have to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But how is that overpaying?
It's not.
It's not. If, and the thing about the appraisal gaps is appraisers were always a stop check, right? They would stop us from overinflating, right? We don't have that right now. We have appraisal gaps, right? So, 500 is 500 all day long. It doesn't matter whether the appraiser agrees with it or not, because somebody is covering that difference, right? And so that just sets the floor for the next house to just keep escalating. And those buyers are just sitting there making money. What scares me more personally than any of this stuff in the escalation inflation conversation is the conversation about taking away capital gains and retroacting it to the beginning of this year and taking away 1031. That's what scares me more. I really wish we would stop talking about overpaying and inflation and escalation and all this crap and start talking about
the real stuff that's going to impact us.
And yes, interest rates and investment opportunities. That's what scares me more, because I have a lot of investors right now offloading properties because they're terrified of what's going to happen in 2022.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's a conversation for another day. We should absolutely deep dive that one and the impact that it'll have. That'd be good.
Yep.
I feel like we'll get stoned for having opinions on that one. People are going to be like we just talked about, we are moving out of Colorado because those freaking homegirls are too political.
This is real life, y'all.
Yep.
And that says, that's right. There are things going on that need to be watched or stopped. It sucks, but we're not paying attention to that. Ooh. Yeah. Is now a good time to buy an investment property? Mm-hmm. Well, it's always a good time to buy an investment property. When was the best time to buy? Yesterday.
5 years ago.
Time to buy? Today, right? So it's always a good time to buy an investment property. And actually, maybe we should talk about this next week. That'd be kind of fun.
I agree.
Well, I'm in the process of buying. You're in the process of buying. Kristen owns. I think this would be a great opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah. So what we're talking about here is, and I feel like I'm going to make everyone nuts by oversimplifying, but let's just talk about it. Capital gains taxes are the taxes that you pay to the government when you sell a property that is over a certain price point or within a number of years, right? Nobody understands capital gain tax law, like literally even capital gain tax attorneys don't get it. But what they're talking about is in 2022, they're talking about taking it from needing to own it for only 2 years to a higher number of years. And they're talking about taking it from $250,000 a single person, $500,000 as a married couple, to a much lower threshold. Basically, what they're trying to do is tax people that own investment properties much more heavily. And they're also talking about trying to get rid of 1031 exchange, which is where you can sell property A and tax defer any tax liability into property B within a certain number of days. So to answer the question, I do think that you need to be mindful of that if you're going to go out and purchase investment properties, because the rules could change. If you're looking at purchasing investment properties for like a short term, I would be a little wary. A longer term would probably be fine, but I mean, that scares me more than any of the rest of this stuff, right? The market does what the market does. And the market
there's stuff on a very micro level that nobody talks about. This is the stuff that drastically impacts an entire industry. And it's on a very micro, quiet level that no one really says anything about.
Well, people are angry. That's the other thing is people are obviously very polarized with political stuff right now. And they don't like, there's a lot of people out there that don't want to pay tax, right? So there's going to be, I think, a lot of offloading of properties, but by the way, don't think it's going to be enough to balance the market.
No.
Not even close.
I loved all the interaction today. This was amazing. This was fun, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Can we do it again at 10 next week? What do you guys want to talk about next week?
Okay, next week we're off, I think. We're off next week.
Are we off next week?
Well, 3 of the 4 of us are out of town.
Where are you guys going?
We're in Vegas.
Why am I being stuck here? They're leaving me.
And Angela's off for the next
She's in
month.
Disney World, I think.
Yeah.
So she says, you hear about people buying a fix and flip and you just wonder how much of what they make is absorbed by taxes.
That's
I mean,
there's so many.
Smart investors know, a smart investor would calculate that into their margins when they go into buying a property, right? So they would know what their tax liability is going to be, and they would look at their whole profit less that and decide if it's worth doing the project. A smart investor.
Right.
And Brady says, podcast from Vegas?
I don't know.
I don't know if you want to see these two girls after they've been in Vegas for a day or two.
Or maybe you do. I don't know.
All right. Well, I guess we're off next week, but maybe let's the week after, let's talk about scary things that are coming down the pipe for real estate. We
Love
can
it.
talk about all this stuff. And if anyone has anything they want us to talk about, let us know. We love having you guys. This
was super fun.
Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.